Hello, everyone, and welcome back to This is a Woman podcast. I am your host, Sophia Lorey. And on today's episode, we are going to have three brave athletes. We have sisters Alyssa and Madison McPherson and Hadeel Hazameh. And these are three female athletes. Two are seniors in high school, one is a freshman in college. And they had to face competing against alongside a male all through high school. They have officially filed a lawsuit against the California Department of Education, CIF, and their school district, Jurupa Unified School District, in regards to their Title IX rights being violated. But you are going to want to mentally prepare yourself for this episode. The stories these girls have to share are beyond heartbreaking. They're going to talk about a male in their locker room. One girl is going to be talked about being spiked in the face with a volleyball by the male athlete. Two of the girls actually had to also compete in track and field alongside this male athlete. They are going to share how they have lost their senior season due to the athlete, as well as the fact that they were put in situations where the male athlete complained about his breasts hurting when they would dive for a volleyball on the court because one of the other girls made a comment of that happening. The girls are also going to talk about that the boy mentioned after complaining about period cramps a year later that he does not have to deal with them because he has a custom coochie. Yes, this is what the girls have had to endure, not including the fact that they have had to deal with butt tapping, the male having his hands on the girls' butts in between volleyball sets. And so it is horrifying what these girls have been put through. I am proud of them. They are beyond brave for standing up, for filing a lawsuit with Advocates for Faith and Freedom. And so Jessica Tapia, who works with Advocates for Faith and Freedom, is also going to be on this episode. But there is so much to unpack in this lawsuit and what these girls have faced. And so with that, let's dive into it. Girls, welcome to This is a Woman podcast. We are so excited to have you on for you guys to share your story so people can hear the reality of what is happening with males in girls' sports. But girls, before we dive into you all, Jessica, you are here with Advocates for Faith and Freedom. That is the law firm that is representing these girls. You guys have been representing quite a few different people on the situation of protecting girls' sports. Can you give us a little rundown about Advocates and why you're with them to also defend these girls?
Sure. Yeah. So God really brought my story full circle. I was once a teacher at Jurupa High School, and I refused the transgender policies, one of those being allowing boys in my girls' locker room. And that got me fired. And that's when I found Advocates for Faith and Freedom. They represented me, sued the school district. We had a settlement victory last year. And then they brought me onto the team, which was such an honor and blessing to continue to get to fight for faith and freedom right along with them. And so it's especially special to me to see these three girls from Jurupa High School, where I once taught, where I was once a student, step up in this bold and courageous way. Really for all female athletes. And I tell the girls often how much it means to me what they're doing, because I have little girls who I want to play sports one day. But with what the landscape looks like right now, I don't know if that can happen, but they give me hope in what they're doing. So Advocates for Faith and Freedom, we're a nonprofit pro bono law firm here in California. We're now representing a total of 5 female athletes who have taken a bold stand. And so that's really, really exciting. There's truly a domino effect. It just takes one standing up, and we see more and more girls do that. And I know with Hadeel, Alyssa, and Madison, they're giving other female athletes courage right now to do the right thing. So we're just so honored to represent them. And in their lawsuit, we are suing, again, Jurupa Unified School District, California Department of Education, and California Interscholastic Federation. And what we initially hope to do through this lawsuit is actually ask the federal court to put a block to AB 1266, the corrupt California law that even allows in the first place for boys to be able to compete on girls' teams and enter girls' locker rooms. So please pray, everyone hearing and watching this, please pray that we can get that just initial block right away. And then, of course, we'll proceed from there. There's a lot of damages in this case. It's a hefty one because these girls endured what they did for 3 years now. And I'm sure as they get to talk to you about it, they'll dive more into what that has looked like and how their eyes have been opened and really just the pressure the school has put on them. And what I love specifically so much is how humble these girls are, and just really truthfully sharing what this journey has been like and admitting like the school, they brainwashed me. And I love that they're willing to admit that because that's going to help other female athletes realize that that might be the case for them too, where their school has put the pressure on them for them to accept this as the new normal when it's absolutely not the new normal. And again, it just takes one courageous female athlete saying, nope, I'm going to hold the line in truth. Boys are boys, girls are girls. And, to die on this hill.
And I'm so grateful for advocates and everything you're doing, Jessica, with them and on your own. And we've had the other girls that are represented by advocates on the podcast twice now, Taylor Starling and Caitlin Slavin. And we've had Julianne, the attorney, quite a few times on the podcast. And so like you said, this is a hefty case. I mean, I was reading through the lawsuit and my heart was breaking for you girls about everything you've endured, but also was so proud of what you've done. You're standing up for what's right. And so we're definitely going to dive into that, into all the details. But before we get into that, girls, can each of you introduce yourself, share a little bit about the sports you've played or are still playing, and what sports have meant to you? So, Madison, let's kick off with you.
I'm Madison McPherson. I'm a collegiate volleyball player and I've been an athlete my whole life. I played competitive high school soccer, club soccer. I competed in track. I was a long jumper, triple jumper, and high jumper, all events that the biological male competing at Jurupa High School competes in. And sports has pretty much been my whole identity for a very long time. And I just love it so much. And I want the future of sports to really be a place that women can always be comfortable in.
Hi, my name is Alyssa McPherson, and I currently go to Jurupa Valley. So for me, I've always played sports my whole life too. I started at a really young age. I started playing soccer when I was around 3, and I played club soccer up until high school when I found my love for volleyball. And then I started playing club volleyball, and I've been playing since. And I just feel like sports is definitely a place where it helps me like calm down and it gets my mind off of things. And I just really enjoy and love playing sports. My name is Hadeel Hazameh. I'm a senior at Jurupa Valley High School. My first year playing sports was my freshman year when I competed in track and field as a long jumper and triple jumper. And then my sophomore year, I joined volleyball and I made the team. So sports are pretty new to me, but I've worked hard and it just makes me calm down and I enjoy it so much. And I hope that everyone gets to have this opportunity and I hope it's fair for everyone.
It's the opportunity of sports. They bring so much to girls. I mean, Madison, you're playing college sports right now. I know that sometimes helps pay for college education or part of it, or just continuing on to be able to do the thing you love throughout college. And so that's why it's so important to continue to stand up for sports, for girls to have fair and safe sports. And so, Madison, you're now out of high school, you're in college, and the girls, Alyssa, you guys are the same age as the male athlete and have had to compete with him all through high school. Madison, you had a year of just normal sports before all of a sudden things kind of changed and everything was shaken up. And so you played freshman year sports, did all the things. Then sophomore year, was it all of a sudden like, hey, there's a boy here on the teams trying out? Did anyone even know that there was a boy trying out? Did the school come to you and say, hey, just so you know, there is now a boy trying to compete in girls' sports? How did that start to play out, Madison?
Yeah, it was kind of a hush hush, so it wasn't talked about, but everyone knew, the coaches knew. The coaches didn't try to put the athlete on the team and got in trouble by the school because the school told them that it was discrimination. So everyone knew it wasn't as significant yet, again, because had a relatively competitive team. I was, on the road to becoming a D1 athlete. So wasn't too loud because that was before the student had really like hit puberty, but it was not talked about. And when it was like shut down. Like it would be disrespectful or bullying to be able to say something, like just acknowledge it.
And for all those listening, recognize that what we're talking about is 3 years ago. The situation was not talked about as much. It was a little bit of more of an unknown territory compared to where we're at today, which makes a big difference when 3 years ago you're facing this. You're not really hearing about it on the news. You don't know if any other girls are facing this. And so, Alyssa, you started a year, and same thing now. You are having to try out for teams, compete against a male athlete. At any point, did you think this is unfair, this is wrong, or was it so just brand new?
Well, personally, I always felt a certain way about it, especially since from the beginning. But I feel like the school just brainwashed us and told us like tried to make us feel like it was okay and that like nothing was wrong with it because they're trying to like normalize it. But I always knew that it was wrong and like that person was gonna have an advantage over all of the female athletes.
And Hadeel, same for you. You walked in and you're new to sports. Like you said, you didn't really kind of get into sports until high school. Did you even think that that was something you were going to witness, having to compete against a male?
Honestly, I don't think anyone would ever expect it. Like, it just, the whole situation was so new to me and I didn't know like what to say. Like, I always knew it wasn't fair, especially because of my religious rights, like my religious beliefs. Like, this isn't like okay. Like, we're not gonna criticize you or anything, but if you're a biological male, I think you should compete with the biological men. But because like we had to stay so quiet about the situation, I felt like I was silenced to say anything. And when I would question it, I feel like people would like give you looks or something, and like you were just too afraid to like lose friends or like be seen in a different way like you weren't seen before. So I just always like kind of kept myself to it and didn't just try to avoid it, or like in the locker rooms I'd like wait until people were out, or I'd go to the office like they said, oh, you're allowed to go to a different room because we can provide that for you, but we can't do anything about the actual locker situation. So I just always felt like I've always been silent in this situation, and I knew if I spoke up, like people would talk about me, and they do now. But I realized, I'm older. I realize I don't need people to judge me. Like, I don't care if you judge me. Like, I know who I am and I know what I'm doing is in a peaceful way. It's not targeted to anyone and it's just doing what's fair.
Maybe something you're learning through this process is it's so freeing to just speak the truth, to say what's right, to stand for what's right. And yes, you're going to sometimes receive pushback or lose some friends. But if people are going to judge you because you don't feel comfortable having to change in front of a male or feel safe having a male on your team, those aren't the people you're going to want to continue to have around your life, around your future families, your kids, your siblings, things like that. And so, Madison, you guys all have had to compete and play with this male for quite a few years now. And we evidently hit a point where the three of you guys said, no more. We are now taking legal action. We're going to go push back against this. But Madison, you didn't just play on a volleyball team with him. You had to also compete against him in track and field. And because at that point you're competing as an individual, you're competing against sometimes kids from your own school on your own team when it comes down to that. Walk us through what that experience was like. Was he constantly beating you? How did that track and field situation play out?
My sophomore year, AB competed on the track and field team, and I was losing pretty often. I mean, I'm very competitive, so it was hard for me, but I would win one or two events, and I would lose majority of them, but getting mocked because I have said something. So AB's best friend had came to me before they were friends and confided in me saying, I feel like this is wrong and unfair. I've been doing track for 2 years now, and I feel like all of my work is getting pushed down because AB's coming at the top of the board every time. And I had just said, oh yeah, like I don't think it's fair either. Right. I wasn't bad mouthing anyone. I just, oh, I don't think it's fair. And then I had an issue with the school where they became friends. The girl had told the biological male, and I had gotten in trouble with the school saying I was trying to bully and harass a student. And then a week later, that student had posted a video mocking me, posting videos of their medals, saying like, oh, I'm still a winner though. And it was hard. It was hard, especially sophomore year, because it was still like very new to that student. So I just felt like no matter how hard I worked, even though I was at the top of the boards for every other meet during season, it wasn't enough. And then my junior year, I started doing high jump, and I would win, lose. It was very like back and forth a little bit. And then at the end of season to qualify for CIF, I ended up coming short because that student had beat me. So I didn't get to go to the CIF events. But yeah, it was definitely frustrating. So I decided my senior year not to go through the track just so I didn't have to deal with those issues. So I lost a season just because I didn't want to compete.
I think that's so important to note that when you express you're uncomfortable with situations, when you feel maybe too scared to tell your school that this isn't okay because they're not going to take your side, that right now what we're seeing, especially here in California, is that when girls are losing spots to a male, are uncomfortable to a male, they're doing what you had to do, Madison. They're saying, we're just not going to compete anymore. That's where we're going to start to see the end of girls' sports, because girls are going to just say, I'm done. I can't do this anymore, because the school's just saying, all right, girls, you figure it out. You figure out whether you want to play or not, instead of saying, hey, boys can't be playing with the girls. And so I know how much sports mean, and it's not easy to say, I'm just not going to play my senior season. And so that is, for all those listening, that's what's happening right now. That is what these girls are having to face and go through. But Madison, you are not the only one that had to compete in track and field with this male. Hadeel, you did as well. Walk us through your experiences with that, because we did see the track and field situation blow up in the news this past spring and saw a lot of girls affected by it. But what was your story with that?
Honestly, because I was a new athlete, I would always be like, well, like, I'm not even that good anyways. It's not like I would have won anyways. But like, as I got older, especially now, I'm like, there are girls who are being affected by this just because I'm going to lose. Like, anyways, that sounds bad. But like, there's girls who have worked so much harder, like Madison, like, she's worked so hard, and to see her come short of that victory that she deserved, like, it's frustrating. And like, I've always done everything to like be respectful and be kind and like protect AB. Like during meets, I would walk with AB so no one would like harass AB or anything, because I'm not for that. I'm not for any violent protests or anything. I'm always peaceful. But like, it was hard, like always having to come short. And as I got better, I feel like this year I've had so much more potential, especially in volleyball and track. Like, but I've had to let go of that potential because me and Alyssa are standing down for volleyball. So it's just so frustrating. I know I can do so much better, and I've gotten so much better. We've seen it in the first few games that we play, but I just feel like it's so frustrating not being able to play, because I know I can do so much better than I was before, because I was a new athlete. You know, I had to work from the very bottom as a freshman and then just work up. And even in volleyball too, I remember my first year playing in sophomore year, there was a group huddle with the team, and I had been called out. And he was like, it's frustrating because you and one other person like aren't as good. And I was like, I was taken aback. Like, the conversation had nothing to do with me, and I got pulled into it. And it was my first year ever playing, you know, like it was my first year playing, but I made varsity. So it was just really like frustrating again, like to hear that and feel like I've been talked down to, when I know like I've been working so hard. I would spend hours in my backyard serving to myself, passing to myself, just trying to learn the sport. And it worked off. I made varsity, but I still wasn't good enough, I guess, in the eyes of a biological male.
That directly proves too, like, that male proved the point we've all been saying when he made that comment. You are a great player, but he's right. You're never going to outcompete him because he is a male. We have these biological differences. I mean, there's a reason girls and boys volleyball have different height nets, because boys are able to jump higher, and there's a reason we see those differences. And so it's just funny, sad, and interesting to watch males that are competing in girl sports continue to prove the point that we're all saying in their comments as such, without even recognizing that. And so we're definitely going to dive into all the details, all the nonsense that has happened over the last 3 years, everything that's laid out in this lawsuit. But Alyssa, what was the breaking point where you said, no more? I'm going to take legal action.
So, I mean, we've been going to the administration for 3 years already, and it got to a point this fall, or like in August, when our coach had pulled us all aside, all of varsity, and told us that we weren't going to have a season anymore because of this biological male, because teams were forfeiting, which I they agreed with the teams that were forfeiting. Like they were taking a stand, and all my teammates, like she brought us all together and we talked about it, and she was just like, we're not gonna have a season anymore because of this reason. She said because of AB. And that was definitely my breaking point, because she asked us how we felt about not having a season, and learning that some of my teammates didn't care because they were there to make friends frustrated me so much, because I love sports and I love playing volleyball. Sports mean the world to me. So after that, that's when I definitely took a stand and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm not just gonna.
That Alyssa was sharing about the coaches telling you we're not going to have a season because of the male. Was it more of a, hey, you know what? The other teams are protecting their players. It is what it is. Or were the coaches looking down on other teams for choosing to not compete against you guys?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure. I was just like, in the moment, I was so heated. I was like, are we serious? Like, we're on a team to compete. What do you mean we're just here to make friends? Like, yeah, of course, it's gonna be something that I look forward to, especially because I've gotten so close to Alyssa because of volleyball. But if you're on a sports team, like, you should be wanting to compete. That should be your goal. And I was really proud of the other teams. At first, I was like, like another team got canceled. It's my senior season. I wanted to play. But like once I realized, I'm like, you know, trying to protect themselves, like it's just an issue of fairness, and safety too. I'm like, they have every right to forfeit, and although like I'm losing out on my season, I was like, I might as well like do the best that I can to advocate for others, because people like Alyssa want to play collegiately, Madison got to play collegiately, and even though I don't want to play collegiately, there's other people that do. There's so many people that are getting their opportunities taken away, and it's just frustrating because I don't want that to happen to anyone. And especially like my nieces and nephews, I hope that they play sports one day, and I don't want them to go through this situation. So I'll stand up for what's right. And although I'm losing the senior season that I've looked forward to my whole high school career, like I think it'll be worth it. And to show people that I'm not okay with this and it's not fair, and we have every right to step down but still be on the team, and show that it's not fair that a biological male gets to play with a woman, especially because, like you said, in volleyball, the heights are different. Like, there's different measurements in volleyball and girls volleyball and men's volleyball. So I just feel like we have to take a stand to do what's right, not just for us, but for people in the future and the people who have gone through it before that were silenced.
It's where I just know one day I'm going to be able to share with my daughters about the injustice that happened, but how their sports are now protected because girls like you have stood up and said, no more. We're not going to settle for this. And, you guys taking the stand, that's not going to get your volleyball games back, but you are doing it to protect all the future girls. And that is amazing. And I'm just so proud. And Jessica, these girls are sitting over here realizing, hey, we're ready to take a stand. How did that play out with Advocates for Faith and Freedom? You guys got the call, got the text about the situation, and were you guys just completely ready to jump on board and defend these girls?
Yeah, we were immediately ready. We were just, raring to go, waiting for, the final yeses from the girls, and even, letting Madison know about the case and how she could be part of it too. And it was super exciting to hear that she was willing to join in and, like she said, strengthen the case. And particularly what she went through, really gets me heated, because as she said, she fell short, or she lost so many different races. In reality, she didn't, though. As a female, she came in first. And I just want to put that on the record. Anytime that the biological male beat her, really, he cheated. And I think we need to be very clear with our verbiage when we talk about these things. We're watching cheating take place. Anytime a biological male is allowed to be on a girl's team or compete against a girl, it's cheating. And it just blows my mind, because it feels like not that long ago, I was an athlete at Jurupa Valley High School, and this sort of cheating would have never been able to happen when I was there, which again doesn't feel like that long ago. And so it really shows what's happened in such a short amount of time. And I think it's been allowed to happen because so many of us have allowed ourselves to be brainwashed and allowed ourselves to be pressured into accepting this. And so again, it's so proud of these girls for stepping up and yeah, we were absolutely ready to take on this case. It was especially exciting because we already have a Save Girls Sports case with Taylor and Caitlin. God is sending us these female athletes to stand behind, take this as far as it needs to go. Because we think our daughters and our granddaughters are worth it. And again, we don't want to see our own children have to go through what these girls are going through. And we look forward to the day, as you said, where we get to tell our girls, like, these are your heroes, men. Alyssa, Hadeel, Taylor, Caitlin, they're your heroes. It's so exciting. And I know these girls, they're also enduring the cost, right, of taking a bold stand for truth, a bold stand for what's right. They're going to school every day and they're getting, the sideways looks, the, mean words and name calling. But I hope and pray that it's all, and it's something I had to learn as well, but that it's all just affirmation for them that they have taken a bold stand for what's right. And anytime we do that, we know that the devil does not like that at all. And he will try to discourage anyone who steps out in boldness for the truth. And so I hope they just smile through it. And I know they've shared already that it is strengthening their faith. And so nothing makes us more proud at Advocates than to hear exactly that going through this affliction, it's just strengthening their faith. That's so exciting. And it's exactly what God wants to do through this time. And the reward is going to be absolutely worth it.
And I especially want to touch on that cheating aspect. A lot of people might look at this case, Jessica, and they're saying, well, it's a high school student. He might not really understand yet. But Madison touched on the fact that when you were upset that a male was cheating and stealing that spot from above you, he then continued on and went and made social media videos making fun of it. And so these boys, once they hit this high school age, they know what's happening. They know it's cheating. And that's why we have to stand up against this. And so Madison, you're in college. You're no longer there. You're not having to deal with it still like Hadeel and Alyssa are currently as it's playing out. You could have said, I'm at college. I'm enjoying my college volleyball team. I'm trying to figure out this whole new season of life. I'm not going to get involved in this case. I'm graduated. I'm out. What made you decide to get involved and say, you know what? No, I am going to take this stand?
Yeah, I think it was just finally time for me to take a stand because I was really scared to say something before due to the school threatening me with taking away my opportunities and telling me I have a lot to lose. So being told that by the administration really discouraged me and made me feel like, okay, I do have a lot to lose. Like, what if they do this? What if they do that? And even though I'm here and they can't take away this now, I feel like I owed it to the female athletes that are going through it and that are going to hopefully not have to go through it. So I feel that me, taking this case on really just helps strengthen it and just prove that this isn't just an issue at the high school level as well. This also has been happening in college sports. So I think it's just important that I could help strengthen that case. And so that's why I decided to join.
Yeah, I love that. And like you said, it is happening, unfortunately, at every single level. But I want to dive into some of the key lines in your actual case. And so people can hear, I mean, this is probably one of the most honestly horrific cases I've read and heard about in regards to male and female athletes. It's one of the first cases I think we've seen where a sexual harassment angle was also filed. But I want to dive in, Alyssa. There is, in the case, in the complaint, there's a line and it states, in August 2023, during a summer practice, Alyssa dove for a ball and landed on her chest. When she remarked about the pain, the male interjected, right, it hurts my boobs too when I land on them. This comment, made by a male, mocked Alyssa's anatomy and left her embarrassed and uncomfortable. Can you walk us through that situation and how it made you feel?
Okay, so we were doing a drill and someone had served at me and I dove for a ball and I passed it. And then that's when I had made that comment. I said, ow, that hurt because I landed wrong. And then that AB was standing right there. And then I heard him say, right, it hurts my boobs too. And I just stood there in shock. And I was so taken aback because everyone there knows AB does not have that anatomy, and I just felt like he was mocking me, and it's just like I was so embarrassed, so I just like walked away and I didn't really know how to react.
Yeah, like you said, it's common sense. Males and females are different. And so the fact that there's even the pretending that that's not the case, there's the lies that we are the same is disturbing. And so we also see in the sexual harassment angle, I think a lot of people are hearing, oh, there's a sexual harassment angle. It must be about him being in the locker room. And he was in the locker room. I want to dive into that situation too. But Hadeel, the sexual harassment more has to do with the fact that his hands were being placed in areas that you guys were not comfortable with. What was going on with that?
Honestly, I feel embarrassed to admit this, but I genuinely felt brainwashed. Like, I was like, "Oh, it's fine. Like, we're just like on the girls' team, we're just like doing it to congratulate each other." But it's so annoying because now that I realize, like, it's a biological male that just touched me, and I don't like let anyone else do that. Like, I barely even hug my friends, like my guy friends. Like, it's almost never happened. So I'm like, why did I let that happen? Like, why didn't I say something sooner? And because I was so scared to speak up, to say anything, I knew the district wouldn't do anything, the office wouldn't do anything. They even said now we're not allowed to do that, and we still see it happening in these games currently. So I just felt like there's like no winning the situation. And people keep telling me like sexual harassment, like that's way too deep. Why would you say that? But there's different forms of sexual harassment, and you can't tell me that my feelings like were not validated. Like you can't tell a woman that like it's just not right, especially as a woman saying that to me, and they're like, "Oh, you changed in the locker room with that person anyways, like, why are you not speaking up?" But the thing is, I hardly ever change in the locker room, like, directly because I would always wait until people would leave the locker room, or I would go in the volleyball storage room that's dusty and I would change there. Or the office offered me to change in the nurse's office. And I'm like, why do I have to keep getting accommodated to when I'm the biological female? And it's just frustrating now that I let that happen. I let myself get walked over and I let them silence me. And it's just frustrating that I like something I shouldn't have let happen, I let it happen. And I'm glad now that I'm able to speak up. And I don't care if anyone tries to silence me anymore because I'm going to speak truth and I'm going to do what I believe in and just try to do what's right for all females.
It's heartbreaking to hear constantly about how it's the females having to make accommodations for the confused male, how it's the females that have to go to the nurses to change instead of the locker room, or to, like you said, to this dusty, like little storage unit thing. But I also want you to know that none of it's your fault. The situation is not your fault. It does have to do with the school brainwashing you, people telling you that this is okay. I mean, I played club volleyball. I played high school volleyball. I know that after you got an ace or a point, we would huddle in, we'd all smack each other on the butts and stuff, but that is not okay for a male to be putting his hand on your butts. Like, for those that are listening just audio only, if you head to the YouTube and things, you'll see on the screen right now the picture where this male athlete has his hands on your guys' butts in this huddle. And I am sorry that the adults in the room didn't do anything because Hadeel, like you said, like, you're mad at yourself for not speaking up, but you should have never been put in that situation. I'm mad at the adults for allowing that situation to happen. This is the adults in the room that any single adult that is, whether they're in the office at your school, your coach, whatever it is, they should have seen that and they should have said, my players are not enduring this. This is where I draw the line. And so they are who is to blame, not you. And this is not your guys' fault. And so, Madison, can you walk us through, did you have any experiences being in the locker room with AB?
Yeah, I've had also quite a fair share. There's been multiple that I've had with AB. For one, just feeling uncomfortable with the things that AB would say, referencing their custom coochie to the group. It's just uncomfortable. AB, like for those that think that, that they were still in high school, like trans athletes, you don't know like if they know who they are yet. B knows exactly what AB is referring to themselves as. I don't know why people use they, them pronouns, pick a gender. I think picked one. Like, just things like that being said that make people feel so uncomfortable, but no one says anything. And it's just the looking around like, and I've had a conversation with AB in the girls' locker room where I said, I think this is wrong. I said to AB's face, because I'm not going to lie and go around and talk about you, but I think this is wrong. And I said, right now you're my teammate, but this is wrong. And AB didn't say anything, just quiet, like had nothing to say. And, people would say that like, oh, I'm a bully for saying that, but it would be bullying if I don't feel like you can bully that. It's different if I'm going around purposely trying to hurt this person. No, I'm going to their face and saying, I think this is wrong. And I don't understand how anyone could see that as bullying. But yeah, I've definitely had like those weird, uncomfortable situations where just looking around like, is no one gonna say anything? And even administration or even the head coach had heard AB say, pick an ethnic gender, I picked one. Like people know and no one doesn't.
And the fact that we've hit a point in culture and society that if you say, hey, you are a male and I don't want you in my locker room, this is not okay, that people deem that as bullying, it's disturbing. It also goes to show why girls want to stay quiet, why you guys waited a few years to speak out because of the pressure that's put on. And so I'm so glad that you guys said, nope, we're done. We're speaking out on this. And you, Madison, made a comment about custom coochie. And I've never even said a word like that on this podcast before, but I read when I was reading that through the complaint, I like laughed in my head for a second, like, wait, I must have read that wrong. I must have heard that wrong, but this is real. And so, Alyssa, I want to read another part of the complaint. And it says, in October 2023, before a home volleyball game, the male complained to Alyssa that he was having cramps and on his period. The statement caused shock and discomfort to Alyssa because the male's statement is a mere fantasy and marginalizes the pain shared by most women. So in 2023, he was complaining about having period cramps, which is so ridiculous. Every girl knows, like, we don't even want to have the period cramps. We don't want to deal with that. Like, it's not fun. And so for someone just to mock and shame and also add in, but then we see in 2024, things kind of switched up, Alyssa. It says, on or about July 15th, 2020, the plaintiffs, Madison and Alyssa, hosted a team bonding event for the girls' varsity volleyball team at their home. During the gathering, several girls engaged in casual conversation regarding their menstrual cycles. At that time, the male interjected and stated, I don't have to worry about that. I have a custom coochie. First of all, no female talks about themselves that way. We don't yes, we talk about our menstrual cycles, and I just started mine. I remember college soccer, we were around each other so much. We were our periods have all synced up, and our coach was like, oh no, and our coach who was a female was like, if one of us is going to be on it, we're all going to be on it. We're all going to be moody or different things. But we don't refer to our body parts as coochie and things like that. We don't degrade ourselves and talk like that. Alyssa, what was going through your head when you heard this man tell you that he doesn't have to deal with period cramps because he has a custom coochie?
Honestly, I had no words and I was just in shock. And as soon as he said that, everyone went silent because everyone knows the truth. You can't hide that, and just talking like that, talking about yourself like that, talking about that whole situation, that's so weird to me. It was just so uncomfortable, and it's just something I shouldn't have to hear.
No, absolutely. The people don't recognize when they just say, oh, it's just a male on your team, suck it up, he's going to maybe take one person's spot. They don't recognize the depths that come with this. The fact that you guys are dealing with him in the locker room. Madison, you have to approach someone, tell them that it's not okay for them to be in the locker room. People are talking about their breasts also hurting when they're a male. I mean, it goes on and on. And so, Hadeel, I want to talk about a situation now of girls being put in the situation of being harmed and being unsafe on the court. And so part of the complaint, it goes on to discuss about the male athlete striking opposing players in the head with the volleyball. And it says, rather than expressing remorse when the players were injured, the male laughed, tapped his own head, and celebrated the point, even when it resulted in humiliating or injuring another player. At one point, the male even boasted to Alyssa and another student that he had recently caused 3 female volleyball players to suffer possible concussions. A result of this was your guys' coach restricted the male to only hitting from the back row, something you would never do to a female if she was just a strong female getting in solid hits and probably had more control over the ball than to actually slam it into someone's face. And yet the male continued to ignore the instructions and still attack from the front row, endangering players. Hadeel, just what are you thinking? What is going on here with the fact that there is a male on your team boasting about potentially causing 3 female athletes to have concussions?
I think that's just so crazy. How can you like, because I'm so like, I try my best to be peaceful, how can you go ahead and admit that you wanna hurt someone? And because me and AB share well, at the time, we shared, like, the same position, I would go in for AB. So I never had to deal, like, exactly with AB hitting at me, and I've told AB, I'm like, "Oh, I'm so glad, like, I'm on your side of the team because, like, your hits are strong." And I'm like, "Oh my god," like, that also, like, desensitizes the other team that are, like, having to go through that and who have to be afraid every single time AB gets set, you know? And thankfully, we did switch AB to being like a non-hitter, but like still there would be situations like where I would go to the fifth period volleyball class, like last year, um, and sometimes I would play with everyone and I would see people get hit in the face left and right. It would happen almost every single time I went. And I'm like, "Ouch, that must hurt." And we were, like, all laugh about it, but, like, there's nothing funny, honestly. And usually when people get hit in the head in volleyball, you go like this as, like, a gesture. Like, we usually do it towards each other, like, we don't do it to the other team to make fun of them. But if you do that intentionally to the other team, I just feel like it's crazy and it's unnecessary. And it's just sad to see other people get hurt all the time, even though I haven't gotten hurt personally. Like, it happens, and you have to speak up, not just for you, but for everyone. And I want people to see that I'm not being selfish in this situation, and I'm thinking about everyone in every situation. And this shouldn't have had to happen. And that's why there's no boys allowed in the girls' fifth period volleyball team. I mean, fifth period volleyball class because that's just how it is. Like to make everyone safe. But, that's been happening for the past 3, 4 years. And I just feel like, why are we allowing this? Like, it's crazy and it's absurd and no one should get hurt. And I hate when people get hurt, honestly. Like, it just makes me uncomfortable. Like, it makes me feel sad. Like, I cry when see other people getting hurt. Like, when I saw Alyssa come back from her surgery, I'm like, that's my best friend. Like, I don't know. I just don't feel like anyone should go through that. And it's just desensitizing, not just to our team, but the
Yeah,
other team
and
as
when it
well.
comes to sports, I mean, everyone knows if you play sports, there's the possibility that you can get injured. That's something that comes with sports. But there shouldn't be that extra layer that you are now injured because there is a male that should not be somewhere. A male should be a place which should be for females only. And Alyssa, the complaint talks about the fact that you yourself had the ball spiked into your face by AB, the male athlete. Can you walk us through that situation? And was your assistant principal very helpful during that?
So it was before a game. We were warming up and everyone had partners and they were like warming up with each other. Like it's called peppering. So me and AB were together because everyone else has already had a partner. So I went with AB and we started peppering. So as we were peppering for a while, I started hitting harder controlled balls and AB tried doing the same, but AB hit me right in the face really hard because he doesn't really have that kind of ball control. And I like everything went black on the right side of my face. I think it was the right side of my face, and I started crying. I wasn't even like tears just started coming down, and I immediately ran to my mom at the snack bar and I told her what had happened, and the assistant principal was right there and he heard me explain the whole situation to my mom. And he didn't say anything, just said I should get ice or something. So I had just grabbed a Dr. Pepper, cold Dr. Pepper, and I put it on my eye because the whole right side of my face was red and it was tingling and it was pretty bad.
This was a story that my friend had told me when she was on the team like 2, 3 years ago. And she told me that she wasn't even playing with anyone. She was just on the side. And I guess AB and some other people were playing volleyball. They were just peppering. And the ball came like rushing to her and it hit her. And she said like, "Oh my God, like I had a whole bruise on my face because of it." And she wasn't even playing. So I'm like, it's so sad that to see people on the sidelines who were even playing, like she was just doing her own thing before a game and she still got hit. People keep saying, "Oh, it's sports. You're gonna get hit. There's that chance, there's that possibility." But it's happened even outside of an actual game, even outside of prepping. She wasn't even playing with the whole group that was playing. So it just, when she told me that, I was like, oh my God, like it's frustrating to see that happened to you and you didn't say anything. She was like, yeah, I didn't say anything. I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. But I'm like, you should have, like that's not fair. You had a whole black eye for like a week. Like that's insane. Like it's just so sad to see that like that's happening to people and everyone in general.
That really goes to show that when people make this argument of like, well, it's just one athlete, it's just one male. I mean, look at how many girls have been impacted just at your school alone, just due to one male. I mean, and then now these 8 other teams that have now forfeited. I mean, each of those girls, I mean, you guys as seniors have lost your whole senior season. But I think about these other girls in high school sports, you don't really get that many games each season. And so to lose 2 games, because you normally play each school twice in your senior season, I mean, one male athlete affects so many girls, and we're not at the point of one athlete anymore. We're seeing it up and down the state of California. But we also saw Madison. We saw, again, back to the touching of the butts and not being okay. I mean, in the complaint, you talked to your parents and you said, how could they allow a biological male to touch my behind and I have to pretend it's okay? And then we saw when Alyssa and Madison, when you guys were expressing frustration and things like that, having to talk about maybe stepping away from volleyball, Madison, you guys discussed, why should we have to step down? It should be the male. And so, you are at Madison, you already at that point, or you'd stepped down from track and field. Were you just like absolutely done? Like, I'm tired of having to step down because of a male. I'm tired of having a male's hand on my butt. What were you feeling in those moments?
Yeah, I was definitely feeling frustrated. I think I was still pretty loud about it when I was at the school. I think I was one of the athletes and just people on campus that were like, this is not okay for a biological male to be competing. And, the whole thing with the butt tapping, like I had told the principal, like before I had left, especially my senior year, right? Like middle of season and postseason, I had went to the principal and said, why is this okay? This is not okay. The student is tapping my butt, multiple other people as well. And, my one of my friends, my best friend, she can't, change in the locker room. Like, why is that okay? Why do we have to accommodate her? Why is that okay? Why do we have to accommodate one instead? Or why do we have to accommodate the many instead of one? And they had nothing to say to me. They just sat there and they said, okay. And then they weren't even like, I would document it and write on the yellow papers and write a report. And somehow the reports get lost and they don't remember the conversations. And it is just so disheartening that they're more afraid and they're so scared that they, as an adult, can't even step up. I understand it's their livelihood, it's their job. But like Jessica, she had the courage. Why can't they? Why are people so afraid to step up for what is right? And yeah, it was definitely really frustrating for sure.
And so I'm proud of you for being one of the more vocal ones and kind of making the comments here and there, documenting things. And we also, Alyssa, Hadeel, you guys decided to start getting a little vocal here. We see that on September 4th, that you guys finally were informing your coach that you were uncomfortable with sharing the court or the locker room with a male. The next day, you guys found out you were removed from the group chat. Alyssa, your texts between your coach and yourself are here on this. I just want to read through what these texts are because it's so sad that the adult in the room was putting you in this situation. And so you texted your coach when you two realized you were out and said, hey, coach, I just noticed I've been kicked off the varsity group chat. Does this mean you're kicking me off the team? Coach Manu, hey, no one kicked you off the team. But question to you is, if you're stepping back and not participating with our team, aka you don't want to be in a locker room with a male or injured by a male on the fit court, do you even want to be in the group chat? I'm not sure what you're looking for moving forward as far as me and the team goes. Alyssa, you said, but why take me off without asking me? I'm waiting to hear from Principal Reina. Coach Manu, well, I don't have to ask you. I don't have to run my decisions by you or any player. Anytime someone has chosen not to participate any longer, I remove them from the group chats they're in or even banned as a whole. They're not abnormal because there's no point in them being in the chats if they're not participating. You're waiting to hear from Principal Reina about participating. Alyssa, you stated, as a captain and a member of the team, I should have not been removed from the team chats. I'm still a part of the team. Never did I ever state that I quit. Coach said, if you want to be a captain and a member of our team, then be one. Show up and be a team member. Lead, be a captain to your team. Also, I did not remove you from the group chat. This is an extremely confusing situation, which is why I said I'm not sure what you're looking for as far as continuing the season goes. You are not quitting, but you're quitting practicing and playing. With the team being how it is, what would you like to do moving forward? What are you looking to participate in? Alyssa, I can't believe you were removed from the group chat for stating your concerns. And then your coach doubled down on the male's side, basically saying that you're being a bad team member and bad captain because you don't want to be injured by a male or having to undress with one. What made you finally speak out to your coach? And what was going through your head between these text messages?
So the first time that I messaged her about this whole situation was the day that she told us we weren't going to have a season. And then all I heard from her was, "Oh, like, thanks for telling me how you feel." And then I didn't text her until that. And once I texted her that, I just felt like she was siding with the male. And it's not like picking sides, I guess, but I feel like in a way she did, telling me that if I'm going to be a captain, if I'm going to be a good teammate, I need to play. And that I just basically that I shouldn't stand up for what's right, which I thought was crazy. And not only was I removed from the group chat, but also Hadeel was too. We were removed from both group chats. And it was also crazy to me when she said that once players don't participate, like they're removed from group chats. But that's a lie because last year when I had knee surgery, I was out. I was still in the group chats because I was still on the team.
Something that you have been outspoken about is you feel like your religious beliefs have been discriminated against. Can you kind of walk us through why you feel that way? I mean, they have, but why and what beliefs have been discriminated?
Yeah, so as a hijabi, like I'm not allowed to change in front of males. Like they're not allowed to see my hair or my body, and I'm supposed to be modest. You know, people can argue whatever they want, but I'm not gonna change in front of a biological male. I never did, so that's why I went to the office and I was like, oh, like what am I supposed to do? And they're like, oh, we're gonna accommodate to you. You can go to the nurse's office. And I made a point. I was like, what if every girl in the school wants to change in the nurse's office? She said, then we'd have to accommodate to them. But that makes no sense because all the girls, why would they have to be accommodated to and not just this one person? So I just felt like we were being shunned down for being women. I just don't feel like it was right. And I understand that they were just trying to like do their job, but I feel like you can do so much better in this situation without having to put us down. And I have had a conversation with AV. I'm like, oh, when I'm in this area, please don't come here. And AV has respected that, but like I shouldn't have had to go through that situation no matter what. And I just don't feel like if we're in a woman's locker room, I shouldn't have to be afraid to change, you know? And a lot of people were like, well, a lot of girls don't feel comfortable changing around other people anyway, so why does it matter? And I was like, because that's a biological male. Like, that's why it matters. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, it's common sense, and like, it's frustrating when they don't have that common sense. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's a biological male in a woman's locker room. Why are you going to say that it's fine because other women are like, they don't want to change in front of other people's? That just like didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, what are you arguing for? Like, you're not making any sense in this
Absolutely.
situation.
And so that what we were kind of going through was just a small part of this. I think it's like a 55, 60 page complaint that's been filed. And so, Jessica, what are we hoping for out of this case? What are we trying to accomplish through this lawsuit?
Yeah, I think accountability, right? We've talked about how really this comes down to the adults, and it's really horrific that so many adults are quote unquote just doing their job, and really hiding under that phrase. And they're being cowards. They know what is right. As Alyssa pointed out, everyone knows the truth here. But the difference is some people know the truth and they act on it, and they don't let fear get in the way of them living out the truth and standing for the truth. And then on the flip side, there are people who know the truth, but they are scared and they let fear control them. And that never goes well, to let fear control you. And that's why we're so proud of these girls. They know the truth. And even though it might be a scary situation that they're in, and I know that full well, they're not letting fear control them. They're standing firm on the truth. And so in this case, we want people to be held accountable to their actions and to the damages that these girls have experienced. And what's the point of Title IX if we are not going to adhere to it? And so we need to see, we're fighting for California to come into compliance with Title IX, the true and original meaning of Title IX. I don't know if people are still thinking that the changes that the Biden administration tried to make to Title IX are like still in effect. But newsflash, they're not. We are still living on the true and original, purpose of Title IX. And again, but we need to hold people accountable to actually doing that, to actually following Title IX and not violating these females' rights. And it's so interesting because in any other situation, if it was a male on the court with these girls who was not wearing makeup, who did not have dyed hair or a bow in his hair, just appeared as a male, which again, we all know the truth that there is a male on the court, but maybe the appearance is that of a female. But again, if it was a male with no makeup, no bow in the hair, no dyed hair, what we are witnessing, it would be a bigger deal. I think administration would possibly be doing something about, the butt tapping and the hands on the butt. And it's so interesting that we're sitting back watching a little bit of makeup, a little bit of a costume essentially being put on a male, somehow make all of this normal and okay and must be accepted by everyone. We are called to judge righteously, judge by what is right. And we know what is right and true in this situation is there's a biological male that is damaging these girls, and we will not stand for it. And so again, we're just honored to defend these brave athletes. And just to anyone listening, I know a big question, right, for those of us very passionate about fighting for what's right, what's good, right, and true is what can I do? What can I do? Because not all of us are in a situation like these girls where we can take a bold stand. But there is something I believe everyone can do. And specifically with Advocates for Faith and Freedom, we only exist because of our supporters and our donors. Because these girls, they're not, we don't charge them for this lawsuit, for our legal representation. We're only able to do what we do because of generous donors. So if it's on your heart to ditch a few coffees a month and give to Advocates for Faith and Freedom $25 a month, it makes a huge difference for us to be able to continue taking on these lawsuits. And I believe more are coming. Ever since COVID, really, we have exploded as people have, obviously we saw during COVID, that time really opened a lot of people's eyes to brainwashing, right? To what is true and to what their liberties are and how we shouldn't stand for our liberties being violated. And so we've been busy, but again, we can only be busy in this fight for faith and freedom with supporters. So we're grateful for prayer warriors and financial supporters.
And for everyone listening that's wondering, where can I find out more about Advocates? Where can I find that donation link, read more about this case? The link to Advocates for Faith and Freedom for their website, it will be in the show notes. So definitely go check that out. You guys can then also read all about the case. The complaint we've been walking through is on the Advocates website under the girls' case. So you guys can read through all of that.
I wanted to add on to what Miss Tapia said. Last year, I had a conversation with AB. It was about a video of this transgender woman, but it was a biological male. And she did not look like a woman at all. I'm sorry, but they did not at all. And I showed AB, I was like, that is not a woman. And even AB agreed and was like, yeah, that's not a like. So like you can like why when it just to me it doesn't really make sense, because if you know that like that's not a biological woman, or that's not a woman, what's the case different with yours, Like, although I was AB's friend, like, I'm not doing this to target anyone. And it's kind of frustrating that my whole life is around this right now because I don't want, I'm like, oh, they just want to talk about me and like, I'm just their whole life now. Like, if you knew that like that person wasn't even a female because they tried and they did not look like a female at all. But like the same situation goes with you, like you can tell that you're a biological male. And I'm not trying to just disrespect anyone, I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, but it's what it is. Like it's common sense. XX does not equal XY. And I just feel like that has to be said more. And people keep saying, oh, it's just a few transgenders that are being affected, so just let them play. But this is getting so normalized now that it's going to continue to grow. These numbers are going to continue to grow. So we have to speak now, and we just have to stand up for what's right and don't be afraid of speaking up, because if you lose friends, you lose them and you'll know who the real ones are. So I think that's more important than having fake friends or people who secretly dislike you and then go talk about you with other people. So I just feel like it's so important that we speak up now. And if you know the truth, then say it, stop being afraid like I was. And even though we were young, we learned that it's not right, and it just takes some time to open up to the situation and to just speak on what you believe is right, and don't let people take away your beliefs and your.
Like you said, Hadeel, this is not targeting one person. This is not about any one person. I mean, this case is in regards to the fact that your school, CIF, the California Department of Education, has continued to fail you all by allowing male athletes to be involved. But again, unfortunately, it's not that once this boy graduates that the situation is over, because it's happening in other schools. It's happening up and down the state of California. It's happening. I mean, we had 8th grade girls on the podcast recently talking about how it's happening to their restrooms at school. We had college students on the podcast recently talking about how it's happening at the college level. It is happening across the board. And so, yes, in this situation, we are talking about the male that you guys are being directly affected by. But the bigger issue of the fact of the leaders in the state of California are continuing to allow this when they can do better and they can be better. And so with that, Madison, what piece of advice would you leave to girls that are maybe enduring this situation currently, or maybe might unfortunately face it down the line? What advice would you give to them?
I would advise girls to have courage and speak up as soon as you can, so that way maybe you can get an opportunity. And the sooner you speak up, the sooner we can try to find a solution. And it might be scary, but it'll be worth it in the end.
Amazing. And Alyssa, what advice would you like to leave to the girls?
My advice would also to be to have courage and to stand up for what's right and your beliefs, and don't let anyone take away opportunities from you. I just feel like if you take a stand, then in the future, it will make a big impact and it'll change, and other female athletes won't have to deal with it.
Or final words of advice to the current female athletes and girls?
I'm sorry that this has to be said, and I'm sorry that this is a situation that's real and that we've been silenced. And even if you don't agree with it, I think you should hear out other people's opinions, because not many people know our story and they're just assuming, oh, I'm getting called names, I'm getting called racist, homophobic, transphobic, a white supremacist. I don't understand where that came from. But like, if you don't know the story, just look into it a little bit. If you looked into a small snippet of the complaint, you would see why we've been afraid to speak up. And I just feel like don't be afraid to speak up, have courage, and trust in your belief, in your mind, that what you're thinking is right. And just don't be afraid to lose friends, because eventually everyone's going to lose their majority of their high school friends. So honestly, do what you believe is right now, and just keep being you and stay respectful and peaceful, and don't be violent or anything. So just be you and speak for what you believe in.
And maybe the parents of girls that are facing this, that are watching this, and they're like, you know what? These 3 girls, Hadeel, Alyssa, and Madison, they're right. We need to also speak out. We need to not be afraid. We need to take a stand. Maybe that already are looking into potentially taking legal action. How could those parents and girls move forward into that next step of doing so?
Yeah, we'll definitely reach out to us, because we can kind of talk you through that. I mean, we've spoken to several athletes and parents who have faced this situation, and they didn't necessarily go through with legal action. Of course, we were hopeful that they would, because we very much believe that that's necessary for us to be able to fight this. in the courts and from a legal perspective. But we're here. We're here to even just talk with you about the situation you're in and give you some options and give you some guidance and support. But I've always said since I was fired for taking a stand that you don't go wrong when you do what is right. And so it might feel very wrong in the moment, and the cost that you endure, the pain, the affliction, the name calling might feel wrong, but we have to be careful about letting our feelings dictate what is true. And what is true is that you've taken a stand for the truth and for what is right. And God will absolutely honor that every single time. And he will be there to defend you and protect you and provide what you need as you go through this situation. So I would say listen to what that tug on your heart. If you're in a situation that you know is wrong, listen to that, respond, pray about it, and just know that we're here for you.
Amazing. Well, again, if you want to reach out to advocates, learn more about some of the cases they're doing, look into putting aside a couple coffees a month to help support these cases. Because again, how incredible that the girls are able to get this done pro bono by Advocates for Faith and Freedom. That link will be in the show notes. But Madison, Hadeel, Alyssa, Jessica, thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. And thank you guys for the stand you're taking. I know everyone that's listening is beyond proud of you all.
Thanks, Sophia.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having us.